The Seventh Guest is an oddity on this list, as it is the only FMV-based video game that made the cut. FMV games, or full-motion video games, were a craze in the 90s where everyone was doing full-motion video, but not all that well. Seventh Guest was definitely one of the rare occurrences where FMV was done properly, and it turned out to be a great puzzle adventure game. Released in 1992 by Trilobite and later in 1993 by Virgin, Seventh Guest was one of the founding fathers that drove the popularity of CD-ROM games. The story revolves around a man named Henry Stauff, a local legend who owns a mansion, how typical, and invites 6 people to join him for the night. The 6 people gather at the house and they find personalized invitations at the table waiting for them. However, Stauff is nowhere to be found. Only a collection of his puzzles scattered around the house and notes to each of the guests informing them that they are to play a game, in which the winner will be rewarded with their most secret desire. The catch is that Stauff has left each guest to discover for themselves what the rules and objectives of the game are. The game puts you in the shoes of an unexplained protagonist known as Ego. You don't know why you are there or who you are, but you use the puzzles and the revelations to piece together what happened that night after all the guests arrived. For the most part, the story holds up very well and has a good mix of disturbing scenes like people dying and being murdered, as well as playing upon the psyche of your character as you try and scour the house for clues. It highlights the best of both worlds of the horror genre, and does a great job with the cutscenes that can become campy at times. The puzzles are highly varied and naturally increase in difficulty as the game progresses. Simple puzzles include cutting a cake evenly so that you have 6 pieces with the same number of decorations on each of them, or looking through a telescope to connect letters that form a coherent sentence. Other puzzles have you using chess pieces, mazes, logical deductions, pattern matching, and word manipulation. I distinctly remember one of the final puzzles being against an AI where you had to beat them in a game of reverse-eye. For people who need help on puzzles, the Mansion Library holds a book that can give you clues. There are 3 levels of clues, with the final clue basically solving the puzzle, so you can proceed through the game. There is no penalty for using the hint book, and it can be used for every puzzle except for the last one. This was a nice addition, especially playing this as a kid where my logic skills were not as well as developed as they are today. So why is Seventh Guest on the list? Being a pure puzzle game, it can be tough to draw up horror only through cutscenes, but the Seventh Guest does a great job of getting into your mind and making you imagine that you were there on that fateful night. Being an important game for the industry gave this game some pull as well, as it gave CD-ROM games the jump they needed. With the pioneering of Seventh Guest, we may have not seen the rise of 3D adventure games like the Myst series. Since it is in the horror genre, it does give you that sense of fear in your mind, and it takes some courage to move through the house where you don't know who to trust and where you are safe. All in all, the Seventh Guest is a horror highlight for me, and demonstrates that horror doesn't need to be all about guts and ghouls.